Today I'm going to be emptying the lazy spa using a submersible pump rather than doing it by gravity and a hose like I did in the last video. So let's see how effective and how much quicker it is using this method. I'll also try and go through some of the tips and cautions that you need to be aware of when using a pump as well. This is the pump that I'm going to be using today. It's a basic entry-level pump aimed at the DIY user. It's unbranded, relatively modest in cost. A couple of things to be aware of. Most of these pumps are dirty water pumps, which is why they have quite a large inlet at the bottom. That does also, of course, mean that they will only pump down to that depth, which in this case is about 1.5 inches. So then you need to obviously be able to get the last 1.5 inches out by some other means. They generally come with adapters of some description, which screw in the outlet on the side, usually with an O-ring or some other rubber seal. You'll probably also need to get some kind of hose adapter. Another thing to bear in mind is that most of these pumps come with a float switch. Only when the float is above the pump, or at least above halfway, like so, will the ball inside here close the contacts, which will allow the pump to run. Also, another very important point about these pumps, do read the instructions to see what the temperature rating of the pump is. This particular pump has a temperature rating of 35 degrees centigrade. If you're emptying your spa and immediately after using it and the water is at 40 degrees centigrade, then of course you're exceeding the maximum temperature rating. But what we really want to know is, how effective is this at pumping out the spa? How much quicker is it than letting it empty by gravity? The last time I drained it, I connected everything up, started it draining into the drain at around 10 o'clock in the evening and then went to bed and came down the next morning and it's empty. But let's see how long this pump takes for those occasions when you want to do things a little quicker. Just like we did last time when we emptied the spa, turn it off at the control panel and then unplug at the mains. We're all connected up on this pump. I know what time it is as well, so I'll be able to time this. Drop the pump into the spa. The float is floating on the top of the water and the pump is running. You may not be able to hear it, but I can. So I'll now go and make sure the water's coming out of the other end of the hose into the drain. Well, there wasn't, but there is now. Top tip, look along the whole length of your hose, make sure that there are no kinks stopping the water flow. If you're getting value from this video, please be sure to like it down by the title. Interestingly, the float switch didn't turn the pump off before the level got right down to the minimum, so hopefully you can probably hear that the pump is now gurgling because it's now struggling to pick any water up. Tilt the switch manually and stop the pump. Something worth watching for: if you do leave the pump going to empty a whole spa and you leave it unattended for a while, do come back to it on a regular basis and you run the danger of potentially burning out the pump. By my reckoning, we're down to about 100 litres. Just like I did in the last video about emptying using the entirely gravity-based system, I've lifted the tub and supported it to push all the water towards the drain point, which has enabled me to put the pump back in and further reduce the water level. I'm also holding the float up to make sure that it keeps going, and because there's plenty of bits, I'm also swilling the water around somewhat and trying to lift some of the debris into the water, bits of grass, dead insects and a few other things no doubt, so that they actually get lifted up and pumped out by the pump, since after all it is a dirty water pump. About another 10 or 12 minutes pumping and I'm down to, there's probably no more than a washing up bowl full of water in there. And I'm going to get rid of the rest by simply tipping the water out over the edge of my decking. Be careful not to do this with too much water or when there's still a lot of free chlorine though, because chlorine is poisonous to plants. If you got value from this video and I've saved you some time, hassle, maybe some money, consider supporting the channel, links in description, and I shall see you next time.